Hey everyone, Schwab here to share another book recommendation of Cherry by Nico Walker. If you have seen any of my other videos, you know by now this spiel of not paid by publisher, writer, or agent of any kind. I'm just here to share book recommendations and reviews just for the fun of it because I'm a nerd. So with that in mind, let's go right into Cherry by Nico Walker. So the story of Cherry was brought to my attention through Instagram. I follow the Russo brothers on Instagram, and they were at Comic-Con last weekend, and they were talking about their newest project, which is going to be a movie adaptation of the novel Cherry. And it sounded interesting, and as I have said in previous posts that I like to be the informed moviegoer, so of course I had to check it out. They're going to start filming in October in Cleveland, which is pretty cool. And as far as cast is concerned, I think the only big star at this point is Tom Holland, who is going to be taking the lead role. So the storyline of Cherry, it follows this narrator who is kind of lost in life, and so he decides that he's going to go to college because he just finished high school, which is normal route most people go. And there he meets this girl named Emily, falls head over heels for her, wants to be with her, and she makes this declaration that she's not going to be returning to school and that she will be going elsewhere. He's devastated by this, and so he decides that in order to be with her, he's going to go and join the army. While he is in the army, he goes to basic, and then he is sent off to Iraq. So this is taking place in early 2000s, 2003-ish is when the book starts. So he's out in Iraq, and obviously war's going on there. So it's a very difficult situation, which results in him having anxiety and PTSD. And the way he decides to cope with it is through drugs. His main drug of choice is heroin. Years later, he has an on-off again relationship with Emily, but he finally reconnects with Emily, and it's kind of a toxic relationship because she is also addicted to drugs at this point. She met a guy, and the guy got her hooked on drugs, and so both the narrator and Emily are kind of feeding into each other, and basically their relationship is being held together because they're both so addicted to heroin. And their situation gets so bad that the narrator decides that the best course of action for him to get his fix and get his drugs is by robbing banks. And that's pretty much the whole story in a nutshell. So the novel is not, a happy, bubbly, rainbows and butterflies kind of thing. It's definitely portrays drug addiction and the extreme people go to get their drugs in a way that is realistic, yet it's understandable like how they get there. The narrator and Emily are both addicted. They want to maintain that fix, and the narrator often talks about how he gets sick, or if he doesn't get the drugs in time, and so they try to avoid that sickness by getting more drugs, and it's just like this vicious cycle. And when he gets that way, he will go to anybody and he'll take anything in order so that way he doesn't become sick. And the same thing goes with his girlfriend. And then he talks about getting to the point of, or where he gets his money so that way he can feed the addiction. He talks about using school money to pay off for drugs. And then obviously the main the main way to get money is he decides that he's going to rob banks. And drugs are not cheap, so they're going through it pretty quickly. So he's robbing banks a lot. and he is using a lot of money to maintain his and his girlfriend's drug addiction. And he talks about that they spend about $1,000 a week on drugs. Which, a lot of money. And so because all that money is going towards drugs, they're not using money for other things, like clothes and things like that. So he talks about how his clothes are really gross and that he's embarrassed by, the tread marks and things like that that are on his clothes. He talks about how he feels weird being around people that are not on drugs or anything like that. And he talks about how he doesn't like going to his parents' house because they're so normal, or his version of normal compared to what he's been up to. And he talks about just feeling gross. And he talks about that he doesn't see himself as like a good person. He sees himself as a scumbag, and everything that has come at him he deserves in some way, shape, or form. So I feel like the book really takes into account, mental illness as well as drug addiction and how that all corresponds together, and it doesn't glamorize it or make it look pretty. And the narrator talks about his, about the addiction, and it's not, what he wants it to be. He wants to be something, he would like to be somebody better, but he can't do it. And that's, I thought that was interesting. The story is very well written. It's has a style of kind of like Catcher in the Rye, where it's just like that stream of consciousness, where you start off with one story and then it leads into another story kind of thing. It all flows well, and the sentences are very short, and there's not a lot of dialogue in it. It's just very matter of fact. It takes a little getting used to, just the style of it, but once you know who the narrator is and how he is, it makes sense how it's written, and then it starts to become easier to follow, and it's just very fitting. It just works really well, and it's just really, really good work of fiction that definitely should be checked out. I'm excited to see what the movie is going to look like. I'm sure the Roosters will do an amazing job with it. It'll definitely be really interesting. Obviously, it'll probably be rated R because drug use and violence and everything else that comes along with that. But that's all I have for today. Again, Cherry by Nico Walker. You should check it out. You can find it on Amazon, bookstore, library, etc. Please watch my other videos, and if you like what you saw, hit subscribe. That's all I have. The next time I see you, I will be reviewing / recommending the book Vox. But until then, make sure you keep on reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye!